Warning, the following video has flashing lights and also includes content that may be deemed inappropriate for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Who dares awaken me from my slumber? JJ Messenger, I see you have ventured into the darkness of the Fox Den in an attempt to get me to help you travel up to the good old Northeast, specifically your stomping grounds, Connecticut. Absolutely delicious. A little bit more messy than preferred. Yet no worries, I will have something to feast on later. Without further ado, yes, there are some contracts that Mr. Messenger and myself need to collect. My creatures of the night, once again, you are tuning in to LordeStarfox Radio here on Midnight Lycanthropy, and Mr. JJ Messenger is already sitting around the late night fire, getting ready to burn the midnight timber with us into the early hours of the morning. Yes, there are some contracts that are very overdue that I must collect. JJ, are you ready to take a walk into the madness with me?
Oh, yeah, very ready.
Great stuff. To the audience, covering missing people, prehistoric and modern day predator behaviors is something that we really specialize over here. Tonight, I was thinking it would be pretty cool to see what Mr. Messenger thinks about the enormous amount of people that are going missing. We've already talked about a lot of the other scenarios that could be occurring, like misfortune, etc. That's not the goal of the conversation tonight. We are going to specifically stick to the aspect of if it could be a known predator or a predator in general, whether extinct or still kicking around like a Dinopithecus or a cave hyena, what could be responsible? Every year, anywhere from 1,100 to 2,400 people just vanish within North America's national forests. This is not counting Alaska or Hawaii. And when it comes to Hawaii, that is actually the only place I have never heard of any sort of strange animal sightings that could fall into line with what we're covering here. Maybe there could be something there. I do not know. And Alaska is a whole different ballgame. People go missing like some gnarly stuff over there. So the statistic I just spoke of, the 1,100 to 2,400, is just in the 48 states, minus Alaska and Hawaii. 5% of these people are ever found. That's not saying they're found where they're sitting down and having conversations like you and I are having. This just means 5% of backpacks or, some darker things apparently are being found.
Yeah, I'm often wondering what is out there in the woods, what's being reported, what's being seen, and are people that specialize in our forests and our agriculture, is there knowledge that they are not sharing? I know it's very easy and convenient for people to slip into conspiracies, but one has to wonder, Now, here in Connecticut, there was a controversy about mountain lions and cougars. They are often seen, with the long tails. We do have a thriving population of bobcat, with the short bob tail in the back. But people have been seeing cougars with their long, um, very long tails. And the official commentary is that technically there are no mountain lions in Connecticut. Um, Testimony would tend to contradict that. So, what else is going on? And what else is not being shared? And what else is not being investigated? What else is denied, if you will? I don't know. I don't know. When it comes to wildlife in our forests, and people are like, well, Connecticut's a very populated state. It's got cities and towns everywhere and large populations. But where there are forests, and you'll see this on Google Earth or any airplane ride, where there are forests, it's thick. It's very, very thick. It's a canopy. And we certainly have a large amount of laurel bushes. Now, laurel bushes are hard to navigate. They're hard to penetrate. Um, they're very thick and very dense. So, yeah, are there animal species or possibly cryptids that could exist in these forests? Now, I do know that there are unknowns in the forest because I have encountered them. I have recorded their audio. I know they're real. I know it's not pranksters. I know it's not people aware of what I'm doing because no one's in on my locations. No one's involved with what I'm doing. No one knows what I'm doing. So they can't anticipate where I'm going to set recorders or where I'm going to explore. There's some very odd things occurring, very strange.
Love it right there. Preach that excellent opinion and knowledge right there. Again, I'm a big fan of Forrest Galante. He's one of my favorite biologists, as he always, again, himself preaches. We only know 60% of animal behaviorisms. I've really dove into this before. I will glance over it right now. Bottom line is, you and I aren't foxes. We don't know what foxes think. We put a human twist on that, yet we also do not spend our whole entire lives with every fox in the world to gather behaviors. We are gathering it from a very small selection, meaning, like I just said, 40% of behaviorisms are going to be not what you would expect potentially with an animal. Majority of people would not take coyotes per se as a threat in a smaller number. We've covered it before with that country singer Taylor from Canada, that unfortunately we're still trying to figure out really what's going on. Was it actually coyotes as reported, or was it something else? Yes, you originally would think, hey, wait, no way, it's coyotes. But then when you step back and you look at the fact that she was a petite woman, not very big, and I mean, in her pictures where she was playing her guitar is pretty large next to her. She wasn't this extremely athletic, necessarily type female. If a coyote gets you on the ground and then another one attacks you as well, people don't understand. Coyotes just rip and tear. Well, what do you think happens to any animal, especially you and I that just have skin sitting there? Well, we're not going to go too much into detail, but that's going to lead to traumatic amounts of blood loss. It's really not that far fetched to actually think it could have been coyotes as well. Like I said, that might not be the normal behavior per se that we would think of coyotes. It could happen though. It's not out of the norm for a coyote to be used to having predatory behaviors. It's a predator.
Strength in numbers. Now, the pack mentality is, people know the pack mentality. And a coyote can be a very big threat when it's in a pack.
Hmm.
And same with wolves, obviously, and wolves are bigger, stronger, tougher, and scarier. But coyotes, they're in packs. Strength in numbers.
If that coyote is really got its mind on trying to take a chunk out of you, that's going to be pretty hard to defend that with just your hands and feet. Am I incorrect?
No, you're not incorrect. Even a small dog that can do incredible amounts of damage. Um, animals when they go into a frenzy, it's a whole different wavelength than what we're used to, and the unpredictability of their attack and the viciousness
Hmm.
of it. It's nothing people are prepared for.
I'm with you, my friend. It's very much nightmare fuel based information. Before we start, hopefully, filling up the good old file cabinet upstairs for yourself and the audience, over here on the Midnight Society Science Team side, we've been really trying to crunch the numbers and figure out what's going on with obviously the Dogman and strange animal sightings. What if I told you the analytics and evidence really point in the direction of it not being canine whatsoever, that it's actually got way more primate type characteristics like the scratching and usage of the trees, some of the behaviorisms with the arm usage, which obviously they have long, lanky arms, they have manes, they've been seen in packs, glowing eyes. And you and I have talked before. Yeah, if the Dinopithecus isn't around anymore, sure, a normal yellow baboon is still pretty large, not as large as you and I. But now, if we're dealing with a Dinopithecus, that could really explain the aspect of when people say they saw something that looked anywhere from 6 to 8 feet tall, human like, bent back canine like legs. Well, also, I've told people before, check out the baboon legs. They actually bend back like canine legs do, which is super gnarly and super creepy. There are a lot of canine like characteristics about a baboon: the muzzle, the pointy ears. And when it comes to, for example, the yellow baboon, they actually have infrared sight because they have to deal with leopards and other really devastating predators. So an adaptation is that they have night vision.
Wow, wow, that's something. Now, I know there are like primates that do certain howlings.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we hear howling, we associate it with canine.
Yes.
Uh, but there are other types of animals that howl. And even with Sasquatch researchers, like especially in the Oregon and California, Washington region, when they hear those bizarre and often unidentified howls, they
Mm-hmm.
immediately think Bigfoot.
That's so creepy. And then, when you hear some of the reports of the Gugway, right, the long gated snout really seems baboonish, does it not? Also, hyenas. Hyenas laugh and they howl. Again, no relation towards canines or felines. They are related to weasels, ferrets, the mongoose family, etc. Yet that could explain sometimes when people are hearing strange laughter where they are like, dude, something is laughing out there. I am not saying it's a hyena, but imagine if it was a hyena. And I encourage anyone to go listen to hyena vocalizations, and especially their laughter. Gnarly. They make some vocalizations that sound like a foreign language. It has the pitches and tones like that, but there's no words to it. Again, could this not be what potentially people are hearing out there, which would solidify maybe cave hyenas and the North American hyena never went extinct, or maybe a subdivision of spotted hyenas or something from points in time where people were acting all like royalty and trying to have these exotic pets. You and I touched about it before. I believe it was in the 80s or maybe late 70s, where everyone in Hollywood and such had tigers and all these gnarly pets, but then everyone was like, nah, 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 you can't do that. You got to get rid of those. So then everybody let them out into the wild. Then they're like, no, 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 you can't do that either. It needs to be put in a zoo or brought back to where it needs to go, or the third option. What happened in between all of that, right? Man, there's no reason that they couldn't have adapted like that. How do you feel?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like down in Florida or along the southern East Coast, we have a lot of hurricanes, and sometimes with zoos and areas where we keep exotic animals for display, they get loose. And people know that, especially in Florida, there's thriving monkey populations and the Everglades and stuff. And, they're not indigenous. They were introduced and they're there. Now they have something they call the swamp ape that supposedly
Mm-hmm.
walks around on two legs, which is not a normal primate behavior that we're used to, obviously, which is more connected to what we consider Bigfoot or Sasquatch. Then there's that famous photo that looks like an oversized orangutan that a woman shared with officials, right? And she's rather anonymous, and people don't know her, but it's an extremely large looking orangutan, like abnormally large
Mm-hmm.
looking. Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely say I sit 50-50 on that as well, because I've heard a lot of great minds say no, 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 but then I've heard a lot of other great minds say, I don't know, it looks like there really could be some sort of facial change there and such. So bizarre. Yeah, I don't really know how any more credence can ever be brought to that unless we can get more of those photos and maybe some video footage from her, or anything else, or someone to talk to her. If not, it's going to be one of those great ones that, like I said, just kind of plays with the mind and sits like 50-50.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, everyone's familiar with the photos, and unfortunately, I believe this was all photographed a good time ago, like
Mm-hmm.
decades ago. So that window of opportunity is probably come and gone.
You are not incorrect, my friend. That's some of the hard things. Like I always preach, that's great though. You had her basically testimonial and then some images. It's always really helpful to work with a science panel when you have a testimonial, you have images, you have footprints, unknown vocalizations. The more you can sit down with, the more you can get them to be like, wow, all right, But if you come in with, what is it, all your eggs up on one little pedestal here, being like, hey, this one image has to solidify this is happening, they're probably not really going to sit down and talk with you. That's why I try to gather as much as I can.
Yes. Yes, most definitely. Um, Especially, in southern regions where primates would be more comfortable with the environment.
Mm-hmm.
Up here in the northern regions of either New England, where you and I live,
Mm-hmm.
or the Northwest, things get harsh. Things get extremely cold. I mean, Arctic level
Mm-hmm.
cold. So, it's a whole different ballgame.
You're not incorrect yet. Something that nature's already showed us, which is pretty amazing. Everything usually starts in a warm environment and then will move northward to colder places if necessary. And that's how you got the snow leopards, the Siberian tigers, and also the snow monkeys, which are
Oh,
three
yeah.
examples right there of how animals have adapted. I'm not saying that that's occurring up here with baboons and things. I'm just saying it wouldn't be the first time we saw it in nature.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, one reservation I have for them being the garden variety primate would be the ease of tracking and discovery.
Yes.
Because obviously, with the cryptid community and how many of us, quote unquote, amateur, but amateur as in not a primatologist with a bunch of
Yes,
degrees,
I
etc.
got you.
How many of us, quote, amateurs are out there in the woods and doing our thing, There are a lot of us, you could call us hobbyists if you want to, because we all work at our different professions and jobs, and we do this because we have a interest and a passion for it. And we're out there and we're searching and we're combing and we're recording and we're out in the night, we're out in the day. Everyone knows us. And the general public thinks we're all crazy, but there's a large number of cryptid researchers out there.
Again, all very valid and excellent observations, which are very important to, again, just churn through all the analytics and analysis and try to figure out what in the Christmas trees is happening here.
Yeah. So, yeah, garden variety primates that even evolved and adapted. One would expect them to be easier to discover, uncover, and even capture, you know.
Can't refute any of that, my friend. Again, preach, great stuff. All right. To the audience, these last two encounters from Connecticut are going to tie it up for tonight. Mr. Messenger is a very busy individual. As I stated, we're in Connecticut. I'm going to say it once, but then the second encounter, I'll say the area yet again. Well, okay, we're in Connecticut, right? Yes. We have 1800 Hanging Hills, Meriden, Connecticut. Explorers and woodsmen to the area begin reporting seeing strange, enormous, bipedal, jet black, human-like dog creatures with glowing eyes, hunched over in a poor posture and long, strange arms, stalking them in the forest. These strange creatures supposedly let out terrifying screams, howls, and other unknown vocalizations, almost seemingly trying to torment them.
Wow. Now, Meriden, yeah. Everyone in Connecticut knows the black dog of Meriden Mountain,
Mm-hmm.
which is a supposed apparition of a dog that barks with no sound. And if you see it once, it means luck. If you see it twice, it means misfortune. You see it 3 times. I'm not sure about this number, by the way. I'm just quoting off my memory. But once is luck, twice misfortune, 3 times means obviously people are not anxious to have repeated encounters with the apparition of the black dog of Meriden Mountain. The area has a lot of lore. The area has a spooky vibe. It's not all that far from Hartford, well, weirdly enough. One of the largest cities in Connecticut. So, but it's a rugged terrain. It's right by the Connecticut River. It's got high cliffs and some very rugged terrain, perhaps some caves. I'm not
Yeah.
certain about the caves, but I know the cliffs are there.
Gnarly stuff again. This next one here for you, my friend, is from summer 2017 in the eastern part of your good old state. A 24-year-old ambulance driver is casually driving down a rural road with his sidekick after dropping a patient off. As the pair is chatting and cruising down the road, having a good time, an enormous 6 to 8 foot tall, dark black, shaggy, human-like man creature with pointy ears and glowing red eyes casually jogs out of the foliage in a bent-over horrible posture on two huge canine-like legs across the road only 15 yards in front of them and off to the other side. What do you think, man?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I know there's the famed Bridgewater Triangle, they call it.
Oh, that's right
And
around there. Okay.
yeah, there it may be around there. I'll have to look it up. It's a shared triangle between Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. and all sorts of bizarre and
Ooh.
strange things are encountered and seen, from cryptids to apparitions to UFOs and everything in between.
That would make a lot of sense right there if it was near the Bridgewater Triangle. And as you stated, because I've had all kinds of bizarre stuff reported to me from the Bridgewater Triangle. I actually have a friend, Harry Green Jr., that's been on here before, that is right down in that area. Yeah, a lot
Uh,
of stuff, man. Strange canine like Dogman sightings, like you said, demons, paranormal stuff. He saw what he said was a thunderbird. I don't know, some very bizarre stuff. And I mean, it's got a pretty dark history down in that area too, with some of the indigenous things that had happened with land being taken away. I have also heard, though, now that more people are starting to build new properties and have like families and good vibes in the area, not as many people have been having some of these experiences. Interesting.
yeah, yeah. In the paranormal community, it's generally regarded as a rule that negative attracts negative.
Hmm.
So if you have an entire region that has a negative expectation or a negative energy about it, this will supposedly attract negative phenomena. So if people are, settling and there's more of a positive vibe to the community, I would suppose that would shrink down the Bridgewater Triangle.
Yeah, seemingly would make sense, correct? In theory, with everything as you had just stated, I just found that to be a pretty interesting little bit of a tidbit of information I'd come across, that a lot of the really gnarly sightings tend to be later 80s, early 90s, 10, 15, 20 years ago. A lot of
Oh
the
yeah,
modern ones don't really seem to be as plentiful and don't seem to be as detrimental now. It's just interesting. And then, as I stated, people are, starting to put good vibes in, clean the area up, and treat it like home. So I don't know. Could be coincidence, but I don't believe in coincidence. So.
we have a forest here in Western Connecticut that has a mythical vibe about it, and people are not allowed to hike or enter it now because it's privately owned.
Hmm.
And even to mention their name, Dudleytown, even to mention their name will possibly gain unwanted attention from the private property owners. And they're like, you're not to talk about our property, you know. So, I call it the Area 51 of Connecticut or the
Yeah.
Skinwalker Ranch, right? And unfortunately, I understand where they're coming from because teenagers looking for a thrill would start to invade the area, probing the woods, going through backyards. And once in the 1990s, they set a pretty bad brush fire. So it was a bad fire, and it's because they're out there. It's unfortunate.
That it is. My Spanish friends would say no mas to that, no more. That's no good.
No, no. I mean, and that's the unfortunate thing about paranormal research, cryptid research. If you advertise locations where odd things occur or are seen, you attract unwanted attention, especially from younger people who enjoy surfing the internet and looking
Hmm.
for these things. And, and then it becomes a problem for people who live there. And the other side of the equation, and this is especially true of the paranormal with haunted houses and stuff. The other side of the equation is the community will go into action with, quote, debunking. But there's a motivation for them to debunk, whether it's a famous haunted house that everyone knows about, might have been published in a book, might have been made into a movie. Then out come the community and the neighbors. Oh, this is all baloney, and we're going to prove it. And bop, 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 bop. But there's a motivation behind it. They want to be left alone.
Makes a lot of sense right there. Preach. Excellent stuff as always. Well, Mr. Messenger, The sun is starting to come up in the distance, and I do not enjoy the sunlight, unfortunately, for the audience. I really am a creature of the night. Ha. Is there anything else you would like to touch base on tonight with the cases we spoke of or the previous conversation we had in the beginning? If not, you know what time it is, man. Let everybody know where they can find you.
Well, my mind is always open. The name of my YouTube channel, Unknowns from the Woods, is indicating this open-minded approach. If there are animals that I am unaware of, if there are naturalistic explanations I'm unaware of, I'm open to everything. If there are cryptids or unknown animals or creatures or even possibly humans, I'm open to that. You know, this is all a mystery. These are mysteries to be probed and to be explored.
Again, love it. Well, thanks for always coming to hang out with us in the darkness of the Fox Den. JJ is a weekly host now. We upgraded. Yes. You can always check out the playlist down below with Mr. Messenger. He's under the good old Midnight Society as well. Until next time, though, we do need to allow him to get back to his own mystery hunting. Thanks for kicking it with us, man.
Okay, thank you very much.
My legendary creatures of the night, I do adore every single one of you. Please like, comment, subscribe, share the truth to the algorithm. And remember, there are things that go bump in the night.